Hey ladies and gentlemen, Steven here from Redolessence. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate your time and your viewership. And in today's episode, we're going to be taking a closer look at a brand new fragrance by the company Issey Miyake. And this one is called A Drop d'Issey. So make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin my fragrance review of A Drop d'Issey by Issey Miyake, I do want to mention that if you are a fan of fragrance-related content, if you like fragrance reviews here on YouTube, but also top 10 videos, giveaways, unboxings, special guests, and more, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner. And of course, while you're at it, please be sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell icon. So this is actually a fragrance marketed for women, A Drop d'Issey, and I do have a few fragrances by the company Issey Miyake. Of course, on the men's side, we have L'Eau d'Issey pour Homme, and I have a few of the flankers for that as well. Something about the note breakdown for this one really interested me though. There's vanilla, there's almond, there's a sort of creamy, powdery, lactonic nature about it. I actually had the opportunity to purchase this one from Macy's recently, and although I purchased it for my wife, I have a feeling that I'm going to be wearing this one a lot too, because there's this floral heart about it that is really evocative of the springtime. And it's one of these fragrances that I really do enjoy wearing, especially if I'm in the mood to wear a floral perfume. Now, of course, that doesn't happen often. There are some floral ingredients, however, that I am a really big fan of. And this actually has three of them. There's rose, jasmine, and orange blossom. But then there's also this note of lilac in here, and lilac gives off this powdery green honeyed-like quality, which sometimes can be comparable to jasmine. Not to say that jasmine has a honeyed or powdery quality, but it does bear some similarities with jasmine, but it does give the fragrance an overall green effect. And there's this note of aniseed or star anise in the background, which I think is giving it this really nice licorice-like sweetness. Anyways, I'm actually a really big fan of this fragrance. I'm excited to tell you more about the smell. And this is a fragrance that was made by perfumer Anne Ayo, who works for Firmenich. She has actually done fragrances for Lacoste and Zara and Lalique and many other fragrances. So she has quite the resume and she's a very accomplished perfumer. I'm excited to tell you more about the smell. Let's start things off with the presentation. So this fragrance opens up with this very natural and very powerful floral bouquet. Now, it's not too overwhelming and it doesn't put you right in the middle of a flower garden, because there are some other elements in here to sort of distract you from the florals from time to time. But you're definitely going to get a lot of that lilac. You're going to get a lot of the jasmine. The orange blossom, perhaps not so much. And I feel like the reason I'm saying that is because I am trying to compare it to other orange blossom dominant perfumes that I have in my collection, and I'm not able to make too strong or too close of a comparison to any of them. One of my favorites being Sevilla L'aube by L'artisan Parfumeur, and I'm not really getting that from this. Is it a little citrusy in the opening? Yeah, I think so, but I think the citrus nuances in the top really only amplify that effervescent and really spellbinding effect of the floral ingredients. So it has the lilac in here, and like I mentioned before, lilac gives off an effect that is quite verdant in nature. It's green, at times it's powdery, it has a mellifluous quality, so it's a little honeyed, and it also smells similar to jasmine. So there's a really nice and a healthy pairing of both lilac and jasmine in this fragrance, and jasmine is one of my favorite smells of all time. It's such a clean white floral ingredient, especially when the indole has been dialed down, and so it's not too barnyardy, for lack of a better phrase. And so this has that very bright floral opening, and it's something that is really attractive, really magnetic, and it just connects you with nature. And I think that that's the best way for me to describe it. But there's this backdrop of almond milk. So you have that almondy quality in here. It doesn't smell like a Hypnotic Poison by Dior, and it doesn't smell like some other milky fragrances that I've tried. I think Perfect by Marc Jacobs was a little lactonic in my opinion as well. It's not too close to that. And I feel like the sweetness in here, while there could have been a little bit more coming from the vanilla or the star anise or aniseed, I forget what's being used, I'm not getting too sweet of an aroma from this. I'm actually getting more of that floral bouquet in the heart, but I feel like that tiny bit of sweetness that I am getting in the background is adding the perfect accent and the perfect facet to all of these other ingredients in here as well. I know rose is listed as a note. I'm not getting anything overly rosy from this fragrance. I was looking online and some people were making comparisons to Nivea, the original Nivea, which I think came out in 2015. I'm not getting too strong of a comparison to that, albeit there are quite a few similarities with the bottle, especially the white portion here at the top where the atomizer is located. And of course, I think its appearance also resembles Bulgari Aqua Porom. And of course, the other flankers, Aquamarine and Aqua Amara, they're all housed in the same bottle. And so while the presentation is not anything totally new, the smell is kind of new. And so I'm really appreciating this aroma. And I like that daring juxtaposition between the floral nuances, but also that lactonic, almondy, vanilla quality that I'm getting in here. It's actually really, really well done. So there is some resoluteness in the base as well. There's cedarwood used as a note. Nothing about this fragrance smells particularly cedary to my nose. I do feel like this one can be worn very comfortably by a woman in a really nice sundress in the summertime, especially if you just want to smell quite casual, but you also want to attract people and you want to smell different from everybody else, because at the end of the day, this is a brand new 2021 release. And so it's pretty much a guarantee that you're not going to smell like too many other people out there. And of course, there are some other fragrances from the company Issey Miyake that have reached iconic status in the community. This is one that I think is going to be receiving a lot more praise in the weeks and months and perhaps even years to come, because I genuinely find it to be a really interesting fragrance. Now, I think because of the floral components, there will be those who argue that this one leans a bit more feminine than it does unisex, gender neutral, or even perhaps even masculine. So I do find this to be a little bit leaning on the feminine side. But if you are a fan of floral ingredients, if you can pull off jasmine very comfortably, if you can pull off rose very comfortably, and you can imagine yourself wearing a slightly sweeter jasmine with a green undertone and an almost milky lactonic pseudo powdery quality, I think you'll really enjoy this one. And yeah, it's also worth mentioning that the vanilla is complemented by the honey that is coming from the freesia. It's a really wonderful blend. Super happy to have it in my collection. And yes, I will be wearing this one myself. Let's go ahead and finish things off with my overall assessment. So first up, in terms of the uniqueness and the overall smell, it does remind me of some other fragrances that I've tried in the past. And so I think that that's kind of the case now. When we smell a certain number of fragrances, we will inevitably be able to connect it with something that we've tried before. But the overall composition and the unison, the amalgam of all of these ingredients is a combination that I haven't necessarily smelled before. And so this was a breath of fresh air. The timing of its release is also perfect too, right in time for the springtime. And so I'm going to be enjoying this one a lot over the next few months. And despite the fact that it's marketed for women, I'm going to be wearing this one too. I just feel like the florals in here give off a very happy, spirit lifting quality. And so I'm enjoying that. Overall smell is incredibly pleasant. Longevity on this one is about 6 hours on my skin. If you do spray it on your shirt, you might see it lasting 7 or 8 hours, but then it is a skin scent or a close encounter scent. So you have to get quite close in order to really be able to perceive all aspects of the fragrance. In terms of the projection, it was great for the first 2 hours of application. I wouldn't say it ever radiated beyond an arm's length, but what's interesting is I sprayed this test strip about 20 or 25 minutes ago, and I sprayed it, walked over to the coffee table, which is on the other end of my living room there, and I was able to smell it. And so I think that that's just because it was freshly applied, but really once you give it a little bit of time to settle on your skin, it's not too loud of a perfume, but it's a really great casual close encounter fragrance. And I think the performance is right where it needs to be for this type of a DNA. In terms of versatility, I do think it leans casually. I think there are some other fragrances out there that have a nature about them that's a little bit more va-va-voom if we're talking about like black Opium by Yves Saint Laurent, or even Hypnotic Poison, which I mentioned before, containing an almond note. I think that one is a little darker and a little bit more appropriate for like a formal scenario, but you can definitely wear this one casually. Spring and summer is right where it's at in terms of seasons, and I can see somebody who's a little bit youthful wearing this one and enjoying it, as well as somebody who's a little bit older and more established in their ways. In terms of the presentation, it does inevitably borrow influence from some other bottles, with the exception of this dimple in the back. I haven't seen too many presentations like this. But my final verdict on this fragrance is, if you are a fan of floral fragrances and you can imagine taking a very organic smelling floral fragrance and adding nuances of almond, lactonic nuances, honey, and green elements, I think you will really enjoy a Drop d'Issey by Issey Miyake. I'm personally enjoying it. I'm happy that I purchased it, albeit at full retail, but I know the price will drop eventually within the next few months if I'm not mistaken, but I'm happy I picked it up when I did, especially now that it's in time for the hotter weather. So thank you so much for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. I really do appreciate it. That was my review of a Drop d'Issey by Issey Miyake. If you own or have tried this fragrance, please let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below. Also, if you are new to this channel and you took something of value from this video, I would really appreciate it if you would consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner. And of course, while you're at it, please make sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell icon too. Thanks again for watching. Love you all, and we'll see you next time. Bye.